We're always on the phones, whether it's on applications or Facebook or text messaging, we're on it all the time. Very addictive. It stops us doing a lot of things. Even while we're eating our dinner, we're still on our phones. It's made us slightly more antisocial, I'd say. Rather than sort of sitting there talking, we're more likely to sit there playing on our phones, which isn't that great, really.
It's like having a laptop in your hand. It's a generation thing, I think. I think it probably brings everything that I would do together, as in the fact I wouldn't have to go off, sit at a computer while the rest of the family's in the living room watching telly. I could still be watching telly, still be with my family, but I can look, I can message, I could do that. I don't think it takes the family away from me.
We were on holiday a few months ago and Richard actually took a picture of us all, sat in a cafe, and instead of talking to each other, we all sat with our phones.
Joining me now is James Thickett, Director of Research with the media regulator Ofcom. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Now, we're spending more on communications than we did 10 years ago, but is it better value for money than it was a decade ago?
It is. I mean, the average spend on communication services actually went up between 2000 and 2005, but then it's fallen every year since. And this is, we think, down to two things. It's down to more competition, particularly in the mobile market. But it's also down to the way people buy their communication services through discounted bundles. Over half of people now buy their fixed line, their broadband and their mobile other services through a discounted bundle.
But mobile phones themselves are getting more expensive, aren't they? So is the shape of contracts changing? Well,
what we've seen over the last couple of years is a real step change in this industry, because we've seen the advent of these smartphones that you talked about, like the iPhone and the BlackBerry, and which are more expensive, but have more functions and are easier to access the internet and do more things on. And so mobile operators have responded to this by extending contracts from what was an average of about a year, 12 months, to now 24-month contracts. And what they do is they throw the phone in at the beginning of the contract. And so for the consumer point of view, you're paying a fixed fee over a longer period.
Now, given that revenues are falling and yet we seem to be addicted to them, do you think providers might start putting up prices and see the opportunity?
Well, there's no sign of that yet, because mobile operators obviously have been, are geared up for more data use. I mean, there was a big Spectrum auction just over 10 years ago where they spent £22 billion buying the spectrum that would enable these services to happen. Since then, they've invested in upgrading the network. So you've now got 3G, what's called 3.5G, and also you've got the advent of Wi-Fi.